Many of the more than 7 million Americans who do not eat meat are concerned about getting enough protein, according to a study of vegetarians in the U.S. So here with advice we can all use for getting sufficient protein in our diets is WSJ contributor Heidi Mitchell and Dr. David Sears, Director of Medical Nutrition at the Institute of Human Nutrition at Columbia University Medical Center. Welcome to both of you. Heidi, I'm going to start with you. Is everyone a little bit too obsessed with protein these days now that carbs are the enemy? Can we get too much of a good thing?
Well, it's interesting. You can get too much of a good thing. And yes, I think people are obsessed. I mean, if you take away carbs and you take away fats,
what do you have left?
Left with protein. And so, yeah, you know, it's the sort of, you can feel like you can eat as much as you want, but you really
you don't need unlimited amounts. So, Dr. Sears, how many grams of protein should we be aiming for each day? And is it necessary to consume a complete protein at each meal or even every day?
Well, the current recommendations are approximately 0.8 to 0.9 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And that's a little bit more complicated than that, but to suffice it to say that it's around 55 or 60 grams of protein per day in a person who weighs about 150 pounds, which you can get from an 8-ounce steak if you're not a vegetarian. The myth that you need to take in a complete protein at every meal has been pretty much shot down and is not part of our recommendations. If you are a vegetarian and you include some rice in your diet and some beans, or some grains, I should say, and some beans at various points, they don't need to be at the same meal. You will get a complete protein.
All right. So, Heidi, in your reporting, what are sort of all the sources of protein that vegetarians are looking at?
Well, I think, you know, having been one for 22 years, but not anymore, my main source was cheese. Which, if you're a vegan, you're not going to even eat cheese that's made from milk. But yeah, where they should be getting it is from whole grains, and from legumes, which is beans, but not like string beans.
And there's something about that combination of beans and grains that makes a whole protein.
Exactly. So it's all the amino acids that your body needs to build your body.
Right.
And I remember learning that I think the Mayans were so successful because they ate rice and beans, and together that was a complete protein.
Right.
And
so, Dr. Sears, is that really all any of us need, is some rice and beans in our diet to get enough protein?
Actually, being a vegan is, in my opinion, actually not consistent with human physiology. The reason I say that is because the only source for vitamin B12 in the diet is actually animals.
Okay.
And so even a vegetarian vitamin B12 supplement has at one point been produced by an animal, and in this case it's uptaken into a yeast. So the notion of living just on vegetables is one that I have a hard time supporting. That being said, you need very, very, very little of animal products to get enough B12. So a mostly vegan diet is probably fine.
And you can get that from eggs a couple times a week, correct?
Sure.
Okay, great. And a little bit of fish. What about cheese? Cheese isn't sufficient though, right? Or is it?
I actually don't know the B12 content in cheese. I don't think it's all that high. And actually, the majority of calories in cheese is actually fat.
Right.
So we think of it as a protein because it's somewhat solid. But in fact, you're getting not only fat, but you're getting carbs.
That's too bad. I love cheese, but sorry, I hate sort of dissing on cheese, but I guess you don't get a big protein bang for your buck there. No. But Heidi, what about protein bars? You write about how people are fooled by those a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to anger the whole industry, but a lot of it's sort of like fast food, especially for vegetarians or for anybody. But those protein bars can be great meal supplements, but they are fast food, and so they're filled with all kinds of stuff. And there hasn't been a lot of proof, as Dr. Sears has talked about with me, but there hasn't been a lot of proof to show that your body is really absorbing and using those amino acids and proteins in the same way that it would if it was you were eating it.
Right.
Regularly.
So
I kind of want to reiterate something that Heidi said, and that is protein is now the sort of favorite macronutrient. Carbs and fat have been vilified, and really there's not a lot of good proper science to support the need for more and more and more. And I have a personal opinion that the current recommendations are going to turn out to be higher than necessary for reasonable health.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Heidi Mitchell and Dr. Sears, for all of that. Very informative. Thank you.